I'll try and keep this short and sweet. I'll try and keep this short and sweet because, unlike Eric, my game never came out that I showed off. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and then about some stuff that I made up to fill out the presentation. Okay, so 3 years ago I was a student and I was working on this game called Welkinhold, which, according to the guy I was working on the game with, it means like Fortress of the Sky. So it's a pretty cool name. So I was working on this game with a buddy of mine from school. These are a couple of in-development screenshots. And basically it was a game where you construct these little airships out of blocks of parts that you have and then fight them in these giant battles in the sky. And it was super ambitious and it never got finished. I don't know what else to say about it. So this is the original sort of concept that the artist/designer came up with, and was like, we should make this game, and I said, sure. And then he sent me like a 40-page design doc, and I was like, sure, we can do this, no problem. Let's start today. And I found this picture which I hadn't seen for a long time, and then I saw this ship, and I'm like, oh, that's very apt. That's sort of like the game. It's too fat, and it has nothing to hold it up, and it's just crashing and burning. And so it never came out, but luckily in Ottawa there are 2 different games that came out with sort of similar concepts. This is a previs? Is it? Do you guys remember?
Let's go with that.
Sure, okay. I found this on the internet. Before I worked at iTech, they were working on this game called Sky Pirates, or at least they pitched this game called Sky Pirates, which is
Did you guys not call it Skyrim?
No, we didn't call it Skyrim.
Not Skyrim.
That's a lot of
Yeah. No one did that.
I think everybody went with pirate ships over Sky.
Yeah.
Dropping Sky Pirates.
Yeah, so the game originally looked like this, and you put different parts together to build these 3D ships, and you fly around between islands. I don't think it ever got made in that form. It sort of came out as this. It was. I think what happened, I wasn't there for any of this, but I think they pitched it and they got a grant for it, and so by law they had to finish it, even though the company was shutting down.
I think it made $5 in America.
Yeah, well, it's got 5 stars on the App Store, so this came out initially as an iPad game where I honestly don't know what you do in this game. You like fly around or something, and it looks kind of neat. So there's that game if you want that, and then of course there's also Windforge, which is a super awesome game. As we said for the 3rd time, coming out March 11th to Steam. Go buy it. And this is like if Welkinhold actually got made by competent people and on steroids, because it's not only the ships are built out of parts, but all the buildings are built out of stuff, and all the ships actually sort of physically work, and that's super neat. So go buy that. So the other guy who made this game was. I went to school with him, this guy called Gabriel Rudin, who's this awesome artist in Ottawa, awesome designer.
Shield! And
he's
made 2 Dark Souls shields! A dude made one out of iron or some shit.
Anywho, so I was working on the game with this guy called Gabriel Rudin, awesome artist, awesome designer. After we sort of stopped working on Welkinhold because we just didn't want to anymore, he went on to work on this game called The Archer, which you may have heard of. He worked on it for a long time, and it was looking super cool, but that never came out, so whatever. Then we came together again after a while and made this game called Bytown Lumberjack, and that actually came out, which is cool. That came out in like February 2012. Yeah, releasing. And so that wasn't bad, that was fun. And right now he's working on this game called The Bitter End, which is sort of this dungeon-based roguelike, which is actually looking pretty neat. And hopefully he releases it, because more of his art needs to be out there because it's so cool. Welkinhold didn't come out, so that's all really I can say about that. So I made up a couple things to talk about to sort of pad out my presentation. So 3 things I learned in the 3 years since Welkinhold. And I made these up today because I forgot I was doing a presentation, so hopefully this makes sense. So throw lots away, so I started the game when I was a student in school, and when you get started making games, like everything you make has to make its way into the game because you just spend so much time on it. And that's something that you sort of just have to grow out of, because eventually you'll just start incorporating things that have no reason being in the game just because you spend a lot of time working on them. For Welkinhold, we originally started working on it for XBLIG and XNA. And so we built this whole UI building system based around the Xbox controller, and we spent a lot of time on it. And then eventually we moved over to OpenGL C++ and it was going to be a PC game, but we still sort of kept the same thing around, even though it doesn't really work with mouse and keyboard. But we spent all this time working on that sort of system and we kept it around anyway, when really we should have just tossed it and made something better. Yeah, so play through the pain, cross that out, dev through the pain. Sometimes your game is going to be super shitty, but you gotta work through it anyway. That's another thing that you just have to grow into, is learning to know the difference between you working on a shitty game or your game is just shitty temporarily. There were a lot of times in this game, like for instance, this screenshot right here, things weren't loading their proper colors into levels. But you got to realize that that's not a thing that makes your game bad, that's just a thing you have to develop through and work past. But instead we were super naive and we just got beaten down by these things and eventually dropped the project because we didn't want to work through stuff like that. So, you know, push through and hopefully your game will be good in the end. And then number 3 is one thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, is don't worry about it. It's just video games. Video games are not that important, which is, it's a dangerous thing to say in a room like this, especially around Derek. He might kick me out of the rectangles, I don't know. But,
Pay my bills, Owen. I got big bills.
when you're a student in school studying video games with a bunch of other video game students and all you're doing is working on video games, it can seem like there's nothing else out there. Especially being an indie developer, when that's sort of all you do with your life, it's really important to realize that you shouldn't define yourself by video games. Even if it's your main interest, you can enjoy them and you can make them, but you know, it's not the end of the world if you don't finish your game. I was super stressed out when we sort of stalled on Welkinhold that oh shit, I spent a year and a half working on this game and then it's not going to come out, and there were a bunch of people who were super excited for it, and I was like, oh no, they're going to be disappointed. They're not going to be disappointed, there's hundreds of games out there, they don't care. They got work for it, Shane.
March 11th.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you get paid every time you say that?
Maybe they'll give me another contract, I don't know. Yeah, so don't worry about it, unless you've got like pre-orders or something, in which case definitely worry about it. Yeah, so you know, worry about your video games, but don't worry too much, because everything's probably going to be fine. So yeah, if you want more misery like that last point, follow me on Twitter. Thank you very much.
Are you working on Welkinhold again? Is that the
No.
point of this?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm not working on Welkinhold again. It's just I thought I should talk a bit about it because that's what I presented at the first meeting.
So nostalgic right now.
So yeah, it might not flow properly because you
We've all
know.
made so much more money since then.
So yeah, if for some reason you have questions about any of that, I thought it was perfectly clear. Just come find me afterwards, and we can get on with the open floor. Thank you.
Before we open up with the open floor, show of hands, you want to show something off again? If you want to show something off, come up here and we'll set you up. Everyone else can grab a beer.
I don't think.
It's a good opportunity to get by.
Hard to get a free spot.